I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like we're living in the dumbest timeline. Hey everyone, it's Naiharo here, and today we're talking about the changes coming with Week 4 to the PTS, Pearls of El Nofe, and Pillager's Prophet. We've seen some wild things done here. So what has changed? Well, Pearls of El Nofe are now basically completely useless. If this goes live, you might as well delete them. There's literally no point in having them. Basically, what they've changed is Pearls of El Nofe, for those who don't know or might be returning players, if you're below 50% of your primary resource, typically mag, and you cast a healing ability, you would get 3 ultimate back. Or generate, rather, 3 ultimate. They have changed this to where now, instead of generating 3 ultimate, it gives you major heroism for 1.5 seconds. Now, if you haven't played the game in a while, you might be like, oh, sweet, major heroism. If you have been playing the game, then you would know that Trample, they actually recently with the scribing, added where you could have major heroism on demand via the skill Major Trample. And so that was a way of having major heroism up pretty much 100% of the time. It was really cool. It's a great ability. It lets you show off if you have a trifecta mount or just a real cool mount that you like. You can show it off while in a trial, which normally you don't get to show mounts in various places. So it's really cool. Well, you're still going to continue to use that skill, but there's no reason to use Pearls of Enough 8. It only lasts for one tick of 1.5 seconds. So, and also you can get it with one skill instead of using the mythic for this. So, no reason to run Pearls of El No Fate. The reason they gave, and this is stuff that really gets to me, is that they said to prevent the upper end of ultimate production when specializing in that role, the role of ulti production. Now, it occurred to me that maybe this is PvP related, and so I reached out to some of my friends, and they told me that, Snow Treaders, which is another mythic, and you can only wear one, is pretty much required for most PvP healers because they're targeted so much. So my understanding, and if you guys are hardcore PvP ball group players, let me know, but my understanding is this does not affect PvP, at least generally speaking. Maybe there's some niche setups or whatever, but generally speaking, this should not be a PvP consequence. And, to prevent the upper end of ultimate generation, guys, you can already generate enough ultimate. Well, let me get on to our next set, and then we'll come back to this, because they work together. You run these two sets together on most healers in any kind of trial setup. Pillager's Prophet, they reduce the amount of ultimate this set grants per tick to 2%, down from 5%. A 60% nerf, talking about a major nerf. And they said, we're peeling back some of the raw ultimate generation with this set to better account for its realistic target cap of 11, as well as preparing for how much ultimate generation we're seeing now that builds can better specialize with subclassing. Let me break this into 2 parts, okay? They're peeling back some of the raw ulti generation from this set to better account for its realistic target cap of 11 people. Guys, this set has been out for 3 years. Like, is ZOS on a 3-year balancing schedule? Like, that, in some ways, that makes sense. Maybe that's what they are. But if you're balancing sets or anything in a game once every 3 years, I mean, that explains why not everything, but most of the things they do make no sense to us as players, because they're on a 3-year cycle, guys. So we got to look at what was happening 3 years ago to figure out, what they're going to balance now. This makes no sense. Nothing that has changed in recent history has any effect on this. Why they're changing this now when it's been just fine for the past 3 years makes zero sense whatsoever, and we're all perplexed by this. The second half of the sentence, which I think is even worse, as well as preparing for how much ulti generation we're seeing now that builds can better specialize with subclassing. This is complete garbage, okay? They're either lying or incompetent, and I don't want to call anybody a liar. Preparing for for how much ulti generation we're seeing now that builds can better specialize. Guys, no one is choosing class skill lines based on ulti generation. It does not make sense. Maybe one skill line you might dip into for a tank or for a healer. This has nothing to do with Pillager's Prophet. It has nothing to do with optimized group gameplay. And to be clear, Pillager's Prophet is mainly, there are better sets for dungeons. This is really a trial set here, okay? And maybe a big ball group, but I'm told it's not even for that. So it's really just for in-game trials players. There is not going to be any more ulti gen. None of the core skill lines that people are looking at parsing on, 0 of them are trying to focus on ultimate generation. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And again, it's just wrong. Like that statement. They said they're seeing it too. I would like to know where they're seeing it. Please Give me a link, Zoss, to where you're seeing people are using ulti generation with multiple skill lines. Again, 0 people are doing this. It is not true. It is not real. And I don't know what the hell they're talking about here. And the thing about all this stuff is like, if they would have said, hey, we don't like this set, we're going to nerf it. You know what? Maybe I would have shrugged. I would have been like, well, that's really stupid. Why don't you like the set? I would have asked questions. But what they're doing just makes 0 sense. And the reason they're giving also makes no sense. So again, it just feels like either grossing, like incompetence, or they're lying. And I don't think they're lying, And so this is the kind of stuff that we can expect. Again, maybe, or they're on a 3-year development or a 3-year balancing cycle. So, we can expect, we need to go back in time 3 years and figure out why they're doing this, because maybe it made sense 3 years ago. That is literally the only reasons why you would mess with these 2 sets. Let me tell you some of the pros of running these 2 sets. First of all, this was a fun and engaging play style. It was also very beginner friendly. They said on the top here, under Pearls of El Nofe, that they wanted to prevent the upper end of ulti generation when specializing in this role. Why? Who was that hurting? What was that doing? It did nothing. What this actually does is it makes you now want to choose certain skill lines for your healer, one of your healers, that would actually cause you to generate more ultimate, which limits the number of options you had, because before nobody was basing their choice of skill lines on how much ultimate generation you could get. And you could already generate enough ultimate to cast Pillager's Prophet on cooldown every 45 seconds. Why did they want to eliminate that upper end? What was it doing? The other thing is this was very beginner friendly. It was very easy. As a healer, you want to keep your magicka under 50%? What do? You spam combat prayer. My friggin' clicker finger is sore from spamming combat prayer because I'm in 3 groups a week that do this, and I'm the Pillager's Prophet Pearls healer. And you just have to spam combat prayer in order to proc this and to make sure that you're keeping your mag low. It worked great. It was a fairly easy style of play. Absolutely no one was ever getting kicked out of a group or shamed for not generating enough ultimate. Why? Because it's easy. And if you weren't generating enough ultimate, it would be very easy to change up your build, to have a raid leader, someone work with you to make it very easy for you to be able to generate this ultimate. It was not a problem. The big part of this, guys, for those who don't understand, is that Zoss is spending all this time and resources to fix things that aren't broken, while completely ignoring things that are broken that they still have never fixed. Balancing issues. I mean, the dungeon fighter still doesn't work. It's never worked. If you queue as a tank in dungeon fighter, 50-50, it queues you. You might be sitting there for 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and it might never pop, and it's because it's broken. If you unqueue and requeue enough times, guess what? You'll eventually get an instant queue. Clearly shows that it's broken. And so they're fixing things that aren't broken, and breaking things really that aren't broken, and not fixing the things that are, and it just feels like a waste of time. Okay, so it was a fun, engaging playstyle. It allowed for reactive healing still as well, which was really nice, because you could keep this up, but still be keeping your team alive. It was very easy, beginner-friendly, and it simplified healer sets, right? You put a healer in SBC, Pillager's Prophet, Pearls of El Nofe, and you are good to go, and that was a great basic beginner trials healing setup. Hey guys, this is a good time to interrupt, guys. I make guides and I give informative content on the Elder Scrolls Online and many other games. I do this independently. I don't work with a game studio, because if they're paying me and sponsoring me to do videos, to me that's a conflict of interest. I work for you guys. So if you really like what I do, like and subscribe, absolutely. Another really cool thing is share the video. If this is helpful for you, maybe it'll be helpful for your friends. And if you really like what you see, consider becoming a channel member. It starts for just $1 a month, and it's the best way to help support me and allow me to continue making great guides just like this and giving informative and sometimes rant and rage-filled feedback, but you're always going to get it raw and unfiltered from me. I'm not going to change what I'm saying because I'm sponsored by X company or Y company. And I have friends that are. I'm not dissing on anybody who is. You got to make a living, but that's not what I do here. So if you like what you see, consider becoming a channel member. I'd really appreciate it. All right, back to the rest of the rant. Video. Now the situation is Pearls of El Nofe are completely useless. Why would you use a mythic when you could just use one skill, which is a good skill, and I like the way they have trample set up right now, so I hope they don't change that. But why would you use a mythic when you can just use trample? I mean, you would have to be just completely tapped out for bar space, but it doesn't make any sense. You're just not going to do that, because you're just not going to do it, guys. Just trust me. And there is also no shot that the person that was actually making this change ever played a healer. They don't, certainly not in any kind of trials format. And that really goes back to the continued complaint of the developers don't know or play their own game. And that's really the core of the problem here. I will also say that nobody is talking about skill lines purely for Ultimate Generation. I mean, look, guys, there's nobody who's doing that. It makes no sense. That's a made up fabrication. Maybe they think we were or they thought we were. But again, it just shows how detached they are from the reality of how the game is actually played. And, and this is a really huge thing, guys. If they were concerned about ulti generation, right? Like they say they are, then why the hell did they give the Catalyst passive that gives you ultimate on a Nightblade? Why did they give that a 50% buff? It was only generating 20 ultimate. Now it's generating 30 ultimate. That's a 50% buff to that ability to generate even more ult. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and it makes zero sense. I don't think they know what they're doing is what it comes down to. It's also, again, it's been over almost 3 years rather. Why wasn't this a problem before? Like, are they on a 3-year development cycle? I have no idea. Anyway, some wild reasoning. Guys, my best guess is that they're trying to eliminate the need for any kind of optimized play in trials. That's my best guess. And you know what? If they wanted to do that and they just want to come out and say that, like, I'm fine with it. Cool, let's move forward and maybe we can offer feedback for them that'll actually help them to do that. But honestly, I really think that by saying that, I'm assigning a lot of thought and a lot of intention to ZOS's plans that when there is none. And we've been watching these PTS cycles for a long time now, guys. If you have some 200 IQ idea, or just you're randomly guessing, whatever, drop it in the comments below. I want to know what you guys have to say, what you think, why they might make these changes. Help me understand. Maybe I'm wrong, and there's some 4D chess reason. I'm pretty sure there's not any 4D chess reason, but maybe I'm wrong and there is some reason they're doing this, and you guys have something beat on it. Drop it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Anyways, that's it for today. We'll catch you in the next one.